So at CIOE, we're showing the products that bring the data from your home all the way to the data centers and back. So for the FTTX, we have a range of ATB boxes and pad boxes. So ATB boxes that bring all the way the ONT down to your home with your copper cabling going into your home, so that nobody has to be in your house to install these or maintain these. We also have in these boxes spare length of fiber to allow the splicing to be done on a remote point, like in your van where you've got your splicing equipment. Nice thing is this box can be split in two. So if you don't have an ONT, you can just use it as a splice box, or if you've got just the ONT and no spare length needed, you can just break it up and have this part. So from a logistic perspective, it's much easier. These boxes are very giant, very big, but allows a lot of spare cable up to 30 meters. We've got the smaller ones, yeah, which is our small one here, which has got also the spare capacity. If you don't need it, you just don't add it. But good enough for one splice, so a single dwelling will be served with this one. These ones have up to 8 or 12 and allow the splicing and splitters in here. These are all boxes to give you guys ideas. We're a company that works on creating thought seeds and then work with you guys to make these boxes fit your clientele. IP58, if you want to have a more robust one, and GR771, we've got this one here, which has got the opportunity to do different connectors, either our UMA connector or US Connect's HEC, so harsh environment connector, or the Senko IP9. But also the smaller brother of this one, 4 exits, 4 outputs, 1 input. These ones, with this connector, we can do 16 and 4 by 4, or with the HEC and IP9, we can do 8 by 2. So once all of this goes onto the outside plant network, it gets to your data center. And we've all heard about the AI and how it is impacting the data center, not just from a cooling perspective, but also from a power perspective, but also from a cabling perspective. It's got a lot of impact. Yeah, whereas in a traditional data center, we used to have 72 fiber cores, 144 fiber cores. Nowadays, 288, 576, 864 are becoming more and more the standard. So these big cables are not easy to put in and has to be very flexible. You can have cables with micro tubing in there. You can have rollable ribbon cables, which are smaller, more flexible, or you can use harness cable where you can have 4 times 144 fibers in a harness to keep that flexibility. The reason why you need much more fibers than in the past is because also your bandwidth has gone up. So we're talking 800 gig, 1.6 tera, and this all needs to be coupled in with 8 fibers. So you see MPOs coming more the norm. Yeah, MPOs stands for parallel optics. So where you've got 8 fibers, 12, 8, 16, 24 fibers sitting next to each other. When you look at the size of this, it takes up, we can get to about 72 ports per RU. If you want a higher density, you can come to the very small form factor connectors. Yeah, like the MMC, the MDC, the SN, the SNMT, where you get almost 4 times the density compared to an MPO with the same number of fibers. For hyperscalers, it's almost a must to install these, and they're also more future-proof. Once you've got the cables installed, of course, you need also to install them in the patch panel and to allow the patching. So for that, we've got a high range of high density patch panels, ultra high density and extreme high density. So from a high density perspective, we've got our GPX58. Nice thing about that, high density in data centers, 52 RU racks are the norm. If you're not that as big as 2 meters, you can tilt it to make it easier to patch with an easy click and pull system in it. Very handy for top of rack applications. Then you got your ultra high density, where you can go to 72 ports per RU, either in a system here where you can just do patching. All of our patch panels except for the extreme high density come with the features to have it either with breakout cable and then faceplate with splicing, or with MPO to LC. GPX51, very standard, very common, low cost solution that brings you that density and the variety. So you've got six cassettes to get it modular, so you can mix and match LC with MPO, or your networks where you have still normal multi-mode, for instance, for your network, and you go with single mode for your SAN network. Then we've got the GPX70, which is our latest one. Same density as GPX51, but a more granular modularity. Also, the tray-based makes it easier that if you do any patching on this side, you do not risk the patching on the other trays. Combinations are galore here. You can have cassettes with 4 connectors in it. You can have cassettes with 6 connectors, 8, 12. Total per tray is always 24 connectors, whether it's LC, MPO, and within your MPO, you've got the choice of MPO 8, 12, 16, 24. Another good thing on this one is, as with GPX51, you can pull it from the front, but it also allows installation from the back in case you want to just come from the back and put your cable in. Also easy handling, one hand. So when you want to pull it out, you've got to stop, and just with one click here, you can take the panel out. Enough labeling front, and when you open the panel, you can have detailed labeling here. Clear screen, so that if you've got LED labels, it's easy without having to open it up, you can see the LED labels. Then we get to the extreme high with the very small form factors, where you can have up to 144 ports per RU, with MMC, MDC, MMC, MDC, SN, SNMT connectors at your choice. Same functionalities as the GPX71. The added advantage, if you think the GPX70 is too dense and too claustrophobic for the patch cables, the cassettes of the GPX70 fit into the GPX62, and so you can work here also with LC, MPO, but just at a lower density. This will all need to be connected to the next generation of equipment. And as we know, there's a lot of talk about CPO on that. And the CPO is basically there because we are going to get restricted with the crossover from the copper, leaving the GPUs or the ASIC PCBs and need to be brought to the optical engine, and also power consumption. So a lot of companies are looking into creating co-packaged optics. Now these co-packaged optics, 2 features to them. They're going to be on the PCB in the equipment, and will have to be brought to the front. Now it's going to be more difficult to maintain these, and that's why they did an analysis, and the most impacting, or the element that is causing the pluggables to be replaced the most often is basically the laser source. And so they brought the external laser source to the outside so that still is being easily to maintain. And then they bring the laser over polarity maintaining fibers to the CPO, where the CPO, the optical engine, then puts the data, modulates the data on the light signal and brings that back to the front. So this causes a lot of complexity in the fiber management. And so there's a way to handle this with normal fiber cables and then just cross your cables and shuffle your cables. Or you can do a flex shuffle, where the fibers are laid by a machine in a very quick way, where we also use AI to choose the optimal path. So we call it the infinity because it gives you infinity of connections and an infinity density on the fiber laying. At the moment there's several options there where you can do WDM for multiplexing of your 800 gig 1.6 tera. But you've got also options where you've got 4 ASIC and each ASIC basically switches each of the channels on an MPO. So as you know, an 800 gig bandwidth is actually 4 times 200 gig. And so each of these ASIC controls the one channel of the whole bandwidth. This then all needs to be brought to the front, and because they're located in different positions, you need to have different lengths and how to manage your different lengths. And in a switch, you don't have a lot of space, neither in a server, because there's a lot of other things going on. So you need systems to manage these overlengths, either by having a tray system in there or with a cassette system where you can manage the overlength. And then that all needs to be mixed. So each of these channels need to be mixed in the MPO, and then you can use an infinity shuffle underneath here, which is like 1 millimeter high, 100 by 50, and can handle up to 128 fibers. And that is basically how your data gets to your home.